Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome virtually to Bridgewater State University and to Residence Life at Bridgewater State University. My name is Justin McCauley. I'm the Director of Residence Life and Housing, and I'm very happy to be here with you all today to talk about the residence halls and living on campus at Bridgewater State University. So welcome once again. I am joined here today by four of my colleagues, some of our wonderful student leaders who also, each of the four of them happen to be, amongst many other things, resident assistants in our residence hall. So I will ask them to introduce themselves so you can identify who they are on the screen. So Joe, let's start with you.
Hi, my name is Joe. I am a junior at BSU. My major is criminal justice. I currently live in Hall, and my favorite thing about living on campus is the fact that normally we have 4 dining halls, and I love to eat. So that's my favorite thing.
Thank you, Joe. All right, let's move to Rachel.
Hey, I'm Rachel. I am a senior. I am a psychology major with a criminal justice minor. I currently live in Shea Hall, and my favorite thing about living on campus is all the connections that I've made and RHA, which I will explain later.
Thank you, Rachel. And Brittany.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I am a junior here at BSU. I'm a double major in theater arts and communications, film, video, media. I currently live in the Great Hill Student Apartments, and my favorite part of living on campus is the connections you make with your fellow residents and friends.
Thank you, Brittany. And Mariah.
Hi, my name's Mariah. I am a senior. I'm a double major in psychology and elementary education. I live in Wiegand Hall currently, and my favorite part about living on campus is living in such close proximity to so many opportunities and, of course, my friends.
Thank you, Mariah. So Joe, Brittany, Rachel, and Mariah all are currently living on campus with us and are working as resident assistants. They have lived on campus prior to becoming resident assistants, so I have them here because they've lived in a variance of our different residence halls. So thank you to the four of you for joining us on your free Saturday morning. So I want to say for this presentation, if you have questions while I'm presenting, Joe, Brittany, Mariah, and Rachel will be happy to answer questions in the chat while we go. But at the end of the presentation, we'll have an opportunity for folks to ask questions. So at that point in time, you can ask your questions in the chat also, or you can unmute and ask your questions, and we'd be happy to answer those for you. But let's get started. Okay. So at Bridgewater State University, we are, and we're proud to be, the largest residential program amongst the state university system here in Massachusetts. Typically, we have just over 3,300 students living amongst our 11 residence halls on campus. And those residence halls vary in different styles. We have large traditional residence halls, which are typically inhabited by our first year and sophomore students. We also have smaller traditional residence halls on campus. We have suite style residence halls that include rooms that are clustered together with a common living space and a private bathroom within that residence hall space. We also have apartment style living on campus, which features typically 6 single rooms in an apartment with a living space, a kitchen space, and shared bathroom spaces. So we offer different type of living styles because we know that students have different preferences and needs in those living environments. And we also like to give students the opportunity to experience the different styles. So, and we'll talk about how students select their rooms and change rooms and move rooms throughout the course of this presentation. So we'll answer that for you. In each of our residence halls, we have resident assistants, which are upper level students that go through a rigorous application and interview process. There are students that have demonstrated success in their time at Bridgewater State University, and we ultimately hire them to live in the residence halls, right on the residence hall floors, with all of our resident students to be a resource, a role model. They're there to answer questions, help assist students, make sure that our residence halls are safe and secure and that they are conducive to student learning by making sure the students are aware of our policies. But they also put together programs and events that students can attend and participate in, both right in the residence halls and around campus. So our RAs are a multifaceted aspect of our residence life and housing program and a big key to our success here at Bridgewater State University. We typically have 84 residence assistants across campus through our 11 residence halls. So like I said, they live right there on each floor with our resident students, so they're very accessible. They also work each evening starting at 7 p.m. right in the front lobbies of the residence halls. So they're a very visible presence. They're very accessible to students, and they're there to help assist folks. I had mentioned the programs and events that the RAs do, but between all of the RAs across campus, each year we host over 700 student programs and events for students to participate in. And so those are just programs and events that happen in the residence hall communities, not the larger scale programs, student club and organization events, and all of the other things that happen outside the residence halls, of which there's many. So there's always something to do, something to connect with, even amidst the pandemic. You know, we've pivoted and are offering programs and events and opportunities for folks to touch base virtually and in safe in-person distanced areas. So in some of the reason why we're able to do a lot of those pieces are each resident student pays a resident student fee each semester of $10, and that resident student fee goes in part to the Residence Hall Association and in part to the resident assistants to do programming and events. And we'll talk about Residence Hall Association in a little bit, but we offer a lot, and it's a good opportunity for us to be one of the largest residential programs, because when you have more students and you have more funds to offer those programs, so we have more resources here at Bridgewater. In terms of, I guess for some context, I would say our next largest sister institution is about 500 beds smaller than we are. But I would say, and I'm sure that our students will agree and share, and you'll hear this in their stories, but campus still feels connected. It feels like a place where you know your neighbors, you know your friends, and you see familiar faces around campus. So our goal in residence life and housing is to help students find their place in the BSU community. And there is a place or places for everyone in terms of finding your people, whether they be your friends that you live with in the residence halls, or friends that you connect with in classes, or a club, or an organization, or through an on-campus job, of which Residence Life and Housing hosts many, so that many of our resident students can work right here on campus or in the residence halls. But we want students to find their place within the BSU community. Our resident assistants help with that. But additionally, we have student organizations like the Residence Hall Association that helps with that. And we are lucky to have Rachel here with us, who is actually the president of the Residence Hall Association. So I'll ask her to share just a little bit of information about RHA.
So RHA, as Justin said, is the Residence Hall Association, and our motto is your hall, your voice. As Justin mentioned before, part of your student fee goes to the Residence Hall Association, and we, as an organization, have allocations, which is basically somebody will put in an allocation request for bettering their halls. My favorite example is an RA who lives above me, Andrew Turco. Last year, unfortunately, due to COVID, it wasn't able to happen, but he allocated for $5,000 for new gaming equipment for Shea Durgan, which I've lived in the past 2 years. And it passed, and it was because the pool table, ping pong table, and the other pool table that got here when I was a freshman are old, beat up, and we wanted new ones. And so he went and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna find a bunch of stuff and we're going to use it to better our halls. And it passed. And if COVID had not occurred, we would have brand new gaming equipment and things like that. We also have allocations all the time, and it's really fun. It's a great way to connect with your peers. It was my first organization. I've made some of my bestest friends from it, and now I'm the president.
Thank you, Rachel. And RHA is just one example of an organization or an activity that students can get involved in on campus. The great thing about RHA is technically by being a resident student, every resident student is a member. So if that's something that interests you when you come, you can certainly join and make an impact in changes and improve your residential community when you're here as a part of our Residence Life program. We also support our students through a couple of other roles in Residence Life and Housing. One is through our Residence Life program, which includes our resident assistant program, their training, their hiring, putting together their program expectations, and then also our touch point model, which we call Knock and Talks, which have moved virtually this year, but is an initiative to make sure that we're checking in and seeing how each resident student is doing every month to make sure that they have an opportunity to share any questions they have or struggles they're going through or just what they're excited about in terms of living on campus. And we find oftentimes this is a great way for our residents to say, hey, I've been thinking about this while I'm living on campus. What's your thoughts or advice? And our RAs who are, as I mentioned, upper level students that have been involved and found success on campus can share resources and make referrals to help students connect to those opportunities. We also have a housing assignments team in Residence Life and Housing, and our philosophy is that we know that students feel happiest when they feel like they have the ability to customize their experience. So at Bridgewater State University, right from the beginning, we put that customization into our students' hands. Unlike a lot of programs, we make sure that students pick their building, their room, and their roommate themselves when they come in. So we offer this through an online process. When students contract with us to live on campus after they've paid their deposit, we give them the ability to create a roommate profile to tell us and to tell other students a little bit about themselves. Things like, do they like to have guests in the room? Are they neat or are they a little less neat? Do they go to bed early or do they stay up late? Little aspects like that we know are important to roommate compatibility, but then students can connect through that and identify who might be a good roommate if they don't already have somebody in mind, but they can also, if they know somebody or they're coming in with somebody that they want to live with, they can go through our online process, create a roommate group or pairing, and then select through our online process which residence hall and which room they would like to live in. So right from the start, we give students that control. We don't just shove you into a circumstance and then say you find your perfect roommate and you find your perfect room, and then you get here and 3 weeks later you realize that wasn't so perfect. We've also liberally worked with students in standard times to facilitate room changes. So if you want to move to a different residence hall or a different room, we'll work with you to do that so that we can process that. We know that students don't have time in their busy academic schedules and life schedules to worry about a roommate or a room situation where they don't feel safe and comfortable, and it's taking away from their ability to focus on what's important, and that's your academics. So we are very liberal about working with students to make room changes. We also have employees that work with our facilities management process at Bridgewater State University, and here, what we mean by facilities management is we have a staff that cleans each residence hall, the common spaces, the bathrooms, the hallways, the entryways. They clean your room before you arrive and after you leave, but while you're here, you clean your room and put your own mint on your pillow. But we do also have staff if, say, your light goes out or your heat's not working well or your desk drawer breaks on accident. We have trades workers that will come in and fix that. There's no additional charge for that unless something's maliciously damaged. And say there's an emergency at night where they need to come and address heat or a leak or something like that. We have the ability to call folks in who will come in and fix that and make sure you don't have to wait on that. So that you'll never be without electricity or anything like that. You can reach out to us to make sure we get that settled. And then from a residence hall security standpoint, we know that safety is most important. So we start with safety on the level of your BSU Connect card or your student ID. That becomes your kind of one-touch key for your room. It's your key to get you into your residence hall. It handles also much else, like it'll host your meal plan and become your currency to eat or use vending machines or to print in the on-campus or in residence hall color printers. But that's a starting point for security, so that we know using those cards that only the folks that are supposed to be in any given residence hall or any given room, suite, or apartment have access to those spaces. And then we additionally have full fire safety equipment in all of our residence halls, including sprinklers, smoke detectors, etc. We have a full-time 24/7 police department on campus that responds and supports resident students on campus. And then additionally, we offer front desk security in the lobbies of each residence hall, so that there's a presence there to make sure that folks in things that aren't supposed to be coming into the residence halls are prevented from doing so. So we have been rated very highly nationally for safety on campus as a whole. And we always prioritize safety with our students. And certainly, students who have concerns can contact our department, but also are able to connect with organizations like RHA to say, hey, we have questions or we would like to see these things, and those concerns and questions can be brought forward for consideration. Okay. Just some quick information or data. We survey at Bridgewater our exiting, graduating seniors each year, and then also track what we call retention data to see how our students are doing from semester to semester, to see if they're progressing. In the data here at Bridgewater State University, so you may go on some tours where students will where institutions will share saying living on campus reflects these things. We specifically can say that living on campus at Bridgewater State University reflects these things, not just in general, but students who live on campus have higher GPAs than their peers that commute. And a lot of that, of course, is due to their living in and amongst the environment, near the library, near the resources, near faculty office hours, and near peers who are also doing work and engaging. We also know that our students who live on campus graduate sooner than their peers who don't, and they're more involved and actively engaged in their campus community. So our graduating seniors have told us that they feel more connected to a significant level than their peers who don't live on campus, and that they also have more friends and find it easier to connect with other students and activities on campus. So by proxy, they're more satisfied with their college experience. And a lot of that has to do with immersion, right? We know that students who live on campus are always a 5 to 10 minute walk away from their classes, from their friends, from activities they want to get involved in, and also can do things via happenstance, like walk into their building and see a friend who's like, hey, I'm going over to this event on campus, do you want to come? Or I'm checking out this club, do you want to come? So that there's the opportunity to even just stumble into these things a lot more readily than students that we know that are driving back and forth or have to leave to go to work. Many resident students have the opportunity to find jobs here on campus, so they don't have to withdraw from the community. Okay. So if you're sitting here thinking to yourself, hey, this sounds really good and I'm interested in Bridgewater and I'd like to live on campus, the first thing that you would need to do to make that happen is, once you have applied and been accepted to Bridgewater State University, you would submit a housing deposit. It's a $250 housing deposit. Have no fear, it is not an additional charge. It is just a prepayment on your room fee for the semester. So that just holds your space, and then also tells us that you'd like to come so that we can start contacting you with information about what you need to do to move on campus from there. So that as we get into May, you'll start getting emails from us about how to finish the roommate survey, how to find a roommate pairing, how to identify and look at which residence halls you'd like to live in, so you can start those pieces. And that all happens as part of our residence hall license agreement process, which is a housing contract. So you would get that virtually at that point too. And then towards the end of June, July, typically is when we then open the processes for our new students to go online with their roommate partners or to go in on their own if they would prefer to identify which residence hall and then which rooms that they would like to live in from there. So at this point in time, I'm going to open the floor for questions. So if you have a question you wanted to ask in the chat, or if you would like to unmute or have us unmute you so you can ask in person, we have a few moments to answer whatever questions that you have.
Justin, in the chat, Catherine asks, is the $250 refundable if BSU stays remote in the fall?
That's a good question, Catherine. That $250 is refundable. So our precedence for that, it was just, of course, this past year. So that is refundable up until students come to move on campus. So once students move in and start living on campus, then proration comes in at that point. But we do give students, and we know, that we'll be looking to see what the fall looks like as we move forward, and hopefully a good, clear picture of that will come clearer earlier in the year now that we have some experience with this, and hopefully things improve so we're not having to navigate COVID as much. But of course, our first concern is always safety, so we'll look at it through that lens, but we will communicate with students leading up to the school year and let them know their options. So if you deposit, that is refundable. Other questions? Rachel, could I ask you, as somebody who currently is living in a first year area and has previously, what kinds of events and programs do you see first year students typically participating in the residence halls?
So typically in a first year hall, a lot of the residents really like the first programs that we do, especially so when there's free food. Everybody loves free food, so a lot of us will put on programs such as, Jonathan, leave me alone. A lot of the first year halls will get things such as, actually all the halls do, we get programs where we host like football games, like a watching of the football game, and people love to come downstairs and do that because that's a great way to connect to the peers on the floors who don't necessarily know each other. And it's very scary coming into a first year hall. We were all first years once. I remember how scared I was. But we've been typically in the past few years seeing that people love to play video games. So a lot of our RAs will have, like, personally, I have a Switch. We can bring it downstairs and play, host Super Smash Brothers. I've hosted Super Smash Brothers in both my first year hall and when I was an upperclassman hall, and it was a big hit. The other typical programs that they love to see is, like I said, we have the pool table, ping pong table, and it's a great way to connect with people where you have a common ground of, ooh, I'm interested in this thing. Let me go downstairs, and people will participate and have fun and get to meet people. We also have other programs around campus that Program Council RHA hosts that RAs will offer to assist and walk our first year students to. I believe one of the first events that we typically do every year, RHA hosts the Hypnotist Show, which is a huge hit every single year. It's super fun. And a lot of the times the resident assistants will offer to walk the residents over there because they might not know anybody. And they love that connection point that we have. And I've even hosted smaller programs where I just sat there with my residents and we colored and we got to know each other. And it's really fun to have those touch points with your residents and as an RA, because you get to make really like awesome lifelong connections. Your RAs, like, they care about you so much and everything. And we also love to see feedback. So I will always ask my residents, what do you want to see? I've gotten cooking programs. I want to watch a movie. So really, like, any program that you want to see, an RA can typically make happen. But like I said, we do typically see that our first year residents like smaller scale programs at first, but then they like the bigger scale programs where they can start meeting more people and utilizing the things that we have in campus, such as the gaming equipment, or I've hosted a how to do your laundry program, because not everybody knows how to do their laundry, and that's okay. But that's why we host programs like that. I hope that answered your question, Justin.
Perfect, thank you. Brittany, can I ask you, knowing between your classes and also your involvements, that there are a lot of times where you have to be going to either different buildings on campus or the theater or other pieces. How has living on campus helped you to have accessibility and connect to those things?
So I have a very busy schedule in a typical school year. As a theater major, I'm typically a part of the productions here. So there's rehearsals almost every night from like 7 to 10, as well as my different clubs on campus. That's afternoon involvement. So it's a lot of running around for me. So living on campus has been the hugest advantage to like, it's basically the only reason why like I can maintain all these things, because everything is within 15 minutes walk on campus. Like it's never more than a 15-minute walk to go from one side to the other. So living on campus gives me that time to be able to attend all the things I need to attend, but still have the time to study, relax, go get something to eat with my friends, all of that. So I'm extremely grateful to live on campus, because I don't think I would have been able to maintain all these things without it.
And do a lot of these events or meetings or these things, do they happen during the day, or do you have some evening responsibilities too?
So club meetings typically happen during the day. Around 4 or 5 o'clock is usually the time that club meetings start. But rehearsals for like plays and when we have RA duties, that doesn't start until later in the evening. And I know when we get into tech week of shows, sometimes that goes into like the late hours of the night. So I'm also very grateful for living on campus during those days.
Okay, Joe, and if I could ask you really quickly, tell me a little bit about doing laundry on campus as a resident student.
So there's a new thing. When I was a freshman, it was $150 to wash, $150 to dry. But now they added laundry as a $50 fee. So you don't have to pay to wash or dry anymore. You know, you could do laundry every day if you want to do. You could do it once a week. I usually do it, like once a month because I'm pretty bad with that. But it's great, so you don't have to really pay for that. You can pretty much do it whenever. There's an app. I think there's an app or a feature on the BSU mobile app that allows you to see when dryers are empty or when they're used, and the same thing for washers. So it's pretty helpful.
Yeah. So for any parents listening or family members listening, you don't believe it when students tell you that they have to pay for laundry and they need to bring it home for you to help. At Bridgewater, they don't have to pay for each load of either wash or dry, and it can text them to let them know when it's done. So unlike me in the 90s, they won't have to sit in a dark basement waiting for their laundry to get done. They'll be alerted to that. And then there was a question in the chat about living learning communities. At Bridgewater State University, we offer living learning communities for both first year new students, but then also upper level students. Each learning community is determined and established in the spring and then offered through our room selection process. But we typically offer learning communities like our first year and upper level honors living learning communities, our science and math living learning communities. We have a music living learning community. So some of these are introduced because departments on campus will say, hey, we'd like to offer this for students. Others are introduced because students will come to us and say, hey, we'd like a leadership living learning community, or we'd like a living learning community that focuses on social issues like community service, or for instance, our community engagement living learning community. So those are all great opportunities for students to engage in an activity that's completely free. There's no additional charges. There's typically a course that's required, and as a part of it that students also get to participate in for free. And we try to offer all kinds of perks, like having the students live all together on a floor so they can live amongst students who share values and or tracks in terms of what they want to accomplish while they're at Bridgewater. So it's a really good opportunity for our students. So certainly as we reach out to you all, we'll share what those opportunities are so you can consider applying for those also. So at this point in time, this is our time. I'm going to put our contact information up if you want to screenshot the screen so that you can have our contact information. I've also right here shared the link to your next session. So I'll ask my colleagues to put that in the chat if they haven't done so already, so that you can utilize that link to go to your next session. But thank you very much. I'm Justin McCauley, and my colleagues and I would like to thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you on campus in the fall. Take care.